Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of How Did We Not Know That? I'm Nat.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Sarah.
Yay! Today we have a special guest.
Our good friend Sarah from A Gilman Podcast is going to be presenting today on the history of the Gilman Scholarship.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm not a historian by any means, so I am excited to at least be here and probably also learn a bit more through osmosis from you both. But yeah, I'm just here to talk about the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship and sort of the history of how it was created, and also a little bit history about international education overall and exchange and how that became to be such a popular part of, college life for many people.
Yeah, and before you start, we just want to say that we think that this episode will be really useful because we noticed a lot of our listeners are getting ready for college. And so if you are interested in studying abroad at some point, this is a scholarship that you want to be aware of and you could potentially apply for. It's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to study abroad or have that experience in college.
I couldn't agree more, but obviously I'm biased. Okay, so like I've already said, I think it's important that, for us to understand the present, we have to understand, the past as well. And so I thought it could be helpful to kind of set the stage as to how in the world the concept of international education and exchange even came to being. And so again, lots of research hours later. The earliest equivalent, at least I could find online, was in the early 1800s. We had the World's Fair that took place in Hyde Park, London, in I believe it was 1851. And this is what I could see as a closest interpretation to kind of like our modern day international exchange. Essentially, it was also known as the Great Exhibition. And this was the first time that we could see some of the largest sort of like world powers at the time. That was Germany, France, the United States, come together to sort of try and mutually advance technology, sciences, and the arts for like everyone's mutual benefit.
Wait, what's the World Fair? Is it more professional? Like, I'm thinking amusement park, like corn dogs.
I mean, that may have been as advanced of a setup as it could have had. I don't know if that was a cuisine per se, but I think it was more that, what the UN does every single year, where they have all like the world leaders all come together for that.
Yeah, like the G7.
The G7,
summit?
yes.
Okay.
To me, this kind of seems like G7 adjacent.
Okay.
Something kind of familiar to that, but it was called like the World's Fair, also like I think more popularly known as the Great Exhibition. Also kind of sounds like those like technology fairs where all the big tech companies come together and go, look at our new technology for this year, and everyone's like oohing and ahhing at everyone's ideas to get inspiration for the years to follow. It was also kind of similar to me, but instead of different companies that are all based in the US coming together, or like one leader from every country in terms of like the G7 summit, it's just a few, just those three that I mentioned all coming together. Now, moving a little bit forward into like 1876, a similar international meeting of the minds, so to speak, took place a little bit around 20 years later in Philadelphia, so right here in the US. And this was the International Conference on Education, which included this time 13 countries versus 3 previously. And almost every state in the Union also sent some kind of representative there. At the time, that included like Maine, New York, Vermont, New Jersey, a few more. And now we're starting to see this pattern where world leaders and educators, government officials even, are sort of understanding and experiencing firsthand the benefits of having international meetings of the minds and a chance to learn from each other to benefit their own economic prosperity and such.
That's like interesting that you mentioned like they had representatives from every state in the union too. Like it's just hard to put myself in that mindset where like even meeting someone from like a state on the opposite side of the country is like such a big deal because travel is not that easy. So it's like meeting someone from like New Jersey is like so like eye-opening, I don't know. That's like an interesting perspective.
Yeah. And also traveling probably took a lot more time back then. Even going from like New York to New Jersey, let alone like California to New Jersey.
Oh, for sure. Do you know which countries came to that one in Philadelphia? Were they mostly European?
Honestly, that's what I assumed, just based on this like the track record of where these meetings were typically, like, who were typically involved. But specifics, I don't know. All I know is that every state in the union was sent an official. And now the founder of the Gilman Scholarship, Benjamin Gilman, who we'll talk about a little bit later, will not be born until several years after this event. But international education leaders like, I believe it's pronounced Prince Tomonai of Japan and Heman Wolkenbauer of Germany can be credited to laying some of the earliest groundworks for sending government agents specifically abroad to learn from international sources and establishing one of the first international learning agencies. And then I was able to find out, because I was also curious to know, when did the term international exchange, when did that first start? And one of the earliest professional uses of the term can be traced back to 1886. So not too long after we had like the first groundworks for international exchange and learning institutions. So international education has various definitions, but I think one of the original interpretations that I was reading documents that I was first used in, and I think links most strongly to the Gilman program and what the mission of it is the ideas of promoting international understanding, international mindedness, as well as like global awareness and just general global understanding. Those were kind of some of the terms that were thrown around where I was reading, and I was like, yeah, that's the Gilman Scholarship right there. And I'm sure your listeners may be aware, and you both may be aware of yourself, about how a lot of U.S. institutions have kind of like sister schools in other countries. Like I believe Duke University has an entire like Duke University based in China. And I thought it was cool to know that it was one of the earliest similar concepts to that was started like in the mid to late 1800s, early 1900s, dare I say. We begin to see similar like academic institutional chapters, as well as like international club chapters sort of open up around the globe, all under like sort of one larger umbrella. So there was the University Cosmopolitan Club that had several chapters around the entire globe and included over 200 members from over 60 countries. Which I was like, impressive. Wow. It was just like one like club brand, and they had different chapters all over the world.
It's kind of like a Rotary Club, or?
Yeah, my brain kind of went to kind of like how there's like the fraternity larger chapters, but then they'll have the larger fraternity name, but then they'll have like several fraternity chapters at different universities. I was not in Greek life, as you can probably tell, but I was like, maybe that's how fraternities in Greek life works. But like a more international scale. That's kind of where my brain went.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And we also had I can't forget to mention that we had like the International College at Spring Grove and the Badalis Coeducational School in England. Both were founded for the sole purpose of inviting students from all over the world to come and study at their locations in Europe. So again, like trying to not only just have government officials and world leaders meet together in one location to learn mutually, but then also now we're trying to engage students on that level as well. Then in 2000, we had the International Academic Opportunity Act, which is how the Gilman Scholarship was created. And we saw it sort of began to take root because of, unsurprisingly, one of the largest barriers that you and I, all of us know, to traveling in general in the 20th century it's rather expensive. And so I actually wanted to provide this quote from the legislation itself. It is the purpose of this act to establish an undergraduate grant program for students of limited financial means from the United States to enable such students to study at institutions of higher education in foreign countries. Such foreign study is intended to broaden the outlook and better prepare such students of demonstrated financial need to assume significant roles in increasing global economy. Which is essentially our mission statement right now, just a sentence less, essentially. And then in 2001, Gilman Scholarship is officially established.
Oh, wow, 2001?
Wow. That's really recent.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought this was around a lot longer than that. But Benjamin Gilman, was he wealthy? Like, was he funding this stuff, or is it part of the State Department?
No, the Department of State most definitely, I believe, has been also international IIE, which is the Institute of International Education, administers the scholarship, but the actual funding and most of what we're able to do is because of the U.S. Department of State.
Okay.
From the beginning, since 2001.
Okay.
Yeah. He was instrumental in the creation of the scholarship. He was not just a name that someone put on the scholarship. He was someone who saw a need and wanted to fill that need and was instrumental in creating the scholarship program. So, I mean, some cool stats that I found really interesting. In the first year of the scholarship's inception, around 300 students made up the first recipients. But then the numbers just jumped like rather rapid. Like I have so many percentages and numbers of just how much the scholarship is able to grow into 20 years. Like the fact that you both thought it was a lot older than 2001, I think just lays claim to the brand that the scholarship has been able to develop and how many people have been able to go abroad because of the Gilman Scholarship. I think we have over 43,000 alumni, and that's only in the 20 years
oh
of
my goodness. Wow.
20. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then I'm trying to think. So by 2016, when we're breaking it down in terms of like, ethnic backgrounds, African Americans participated in the Gilman Scholarship at 3.5 times more than the national rate for study abroad in general. Hispanics at 2.5 times more, and Asian Americans at double the rate of the United States average by 2016 alone. And it's been 4 years around since this number. In my mind, I always think, so basically the Gilman Scholarship is the reason why we have diverse representation abroad for the US. It's not at all entirely true, but in my mind, that's what keeps me motivated. Is like, we're at least an instrumental chunk in that. And for being so young, I'm like, great job, us.
That must have been such a fulfilling way to like kind of cap up his like work in government, because he's been working so hard like his entire life to get his like colleagues and like fellow congressmen interested in like passionate about foreign affairs, and then he gets to like culminate all that work by allowing not just like politicians and like government workers, but like students like you said, like wouldn't be able to support themselves financially like studying abroad. It's so expensive. So like making sure that everyone has like equal opportunity to study abroad, like that's incredible. So wow. And he lived so long too. That's so amazing.
Oh yes, I know. It's all great things.
Jack and I are studying for like foreign service officer tests, and I think like that's just another thing that like we were talking about earlier that's just so important. Like our country is so diverse, and that diversity needs to, like, the people who are the students and scholars who are studying abroad at university should reflect the diversity that's in our country. It's so important. Yeah, so that's really amazing. Like those numbers that you listed off, like that's incredible. And I hope it does continue to grow. Like, this is so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And then so you're technically an employee of the State Department then.
I mean, I guess technically, I support the program of the Gilman Scholarship that is under the Department of State.
Oh, okay. So do you work with IIE?
This is a common kind of confusion point of the program. It's that, so IIE administers the Gilman Scholarship program. So we physically sit in their office, but we are one of, I'm going to guesstimate, do not quote me, I want to say maybe 12 programs that at least sit in the DC office where I was. So like there's Fulbright in the building, there's the Boren Scholarship, there's so many. Wow. And then the Gilman also physically shares that space. So if you're comfortable, I always, whenever we have, we host Ask Me Anything sessions on I almost said our LinkedIn, that's not correct, on Zoom via kind of our YouTube recordings, and then also on Instagram, where we invite people to come and ask us anything. And a question we're always asked is, can I apply more than once? Or if I didn't receive it the first time, can I reapply? And we always say yes, because more often than not, we have students who aren't able to receive it the first time applying. And then when they apply the second time, they're even more familiar with the application, the expectations, and they can have a basis to go off of for the next application. Then that really just increases their odds of getting it a second or maybe even a third time. The Gilman Scholarship is actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. Everything's officially kicking off in September, but I had the benefit of, separate of our chat today, really learning about where the Gilman has, like where we started and where we're going into the future. And it's just amazing to see how much what seems like such a small program and such a new program has been able to really make an impact on exchange for so many students. So like I've said already, since the inception of the scholarship, we've sent over 33,000 students to over 151 countries around the globe. 70% of those scholars have come from diverse backgrounds, and thousands have been first-generation college students. Wow. I just give so many ups to those first-generation college students, because not only are you kind of, in a sense, going where no one has gone before yet in your family, but you're gonna go, let me go even further and leave the country.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I think it's I have a stat here that says exactly 57% of Gilman scholars traditionally are first generation students, so more than half.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's a
which is
huge
really
number.
cool. It is a huge number. And we even have, 8% of Gilman scholars reporting, having some sort of differently abled or learning disability, which is, again, another aspect of diversity that we want to make sure is represented abroad. And we have also like almost a fourth or so of Gilman scholars that were studying science, technology, engineering, STEM, compared to like 26% nationally. And Jackie, were part of that number for us.
Yeah.
So just, it's really great to see that people from all different backgrounds, academically and otherwise, have benefited from traveling abroad with the Gilman Scholarship, and we've been instrumental in making that happen, which I think is cool. So hopefully that motivates some of you to consider applying. But no, I'm happy to talk about sort of more about the application process itself. It's daunting if you start too late. Essentially, there are technically 2, but 3 components to the application. You have the first part, which is, your essays, then you transcripts talking about your program information and selecting your advisors. If you don't know who your advisors are, we're here to help you find those people. And, we definitely recommend contacting those advisors before you submit. Then your advisors need to certify all your information. And that includes your study abroad advisor, and then also your financial aid advisor to confirm, for example, that you're a Pell Grant recipient. And then at that point, your application is complete and ready for review. So it's not too daunting, but those essays, you want to put a lot of effort into those. You want to get as many eyes on those as possible to really just guarantee that they will be able to tell your story the best. And once that big hurdle is over, everything else is merely just uploading and finding out people to talk to help certify. But that's essentially all the steps. And then if you also want to apply for the additional language award, that's a separate essay, but I think it's less than 2,000 characters.
You remember the character amount? Oh my goodness.
Oh no, we were actually because we were just looking at it yesterday. That's all the reason why.
I was like, you're dedicated, highly committed to this program.
I mean, I am, but I'm not. My memory is not as strong as it used to be in my youth.
I don't know if Pippin said this, but I studied abroad to South Korea in 2017 on the Gilman Scholarship, and it was such an amazing opportunity to get to join the alumni community and also meet other Gilman scholars abroad. And I would say for your applications, you definitely want to start early, like Sarah said, and then you also want to think about your why for studying abroad. So what is it that you're going to get out of study abroad? And maybe more specifically, the country that you want to go to. Mm-hmm. What are you going to get out of that you wouldn't be able to get at your home institution right now? And really hone in on that. That's like my main tip, I would say, when you're going to apply.
No, that's an essential one. Also, and if I haven't said it already, you can also receive funds to Gilman Scholarship to also have an internship abroad, or you can do both. I mean, we've had students who've done the classes, the volunteering, and the internship.
Wait, what the heck? I did not know about this internship. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the benefits of us going, well, obviously the pandemic has been a horrific thing to happen to the human race in general, but the Gilman Scholarship had to adapt, and we were able to convert our scholarships to funding for virtual programs. And that included, if you were someone who was going to do an internship abroad, you can still do it virtually, and you can adjust with that time zone, you can still use your funding for that. So I saw that that was a really great way that the students were able to incorporate that internship qualification into also a way to receive funds, is, interning in a time zone that wasn't too daunting.
Oh, wow. And so, but do the students have to find the internship themselves, or does Gilman help with it?
Yeah, so I believe we have resources on our website that will send you give you information on other scholarships if you don't qualify for Gilman but you still want to travel abroad and could use funding, and then also on where to go to sort of find the right program for you. But no, the Gilman Scholarship doesn't place you there. It's a part of your application that you have to let us know what the program or internship is ahead of time.
Okay. And you said that you can receive it for like a study abroad and an internship, but could you receive it in the same section twice or no?
Well, it's more that if you could you could receive the money to pay for a study abroad program, and then if you also get an internship while you're abroad, I do not believe your funds would be limited to, if you also need to spend your money to commute back and forth from your campus to your internship, you could use it for there. We actually have a whole section on our website of what you cannot spend your money on. For example, like you can't spend it on travel in between countries if you're in Europe, for example. That's not related to your academics or your volunteership or your internship.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually first learned about the Gilman Scholarship through my current roommate, bestie, friend from college where I was in her room where she received her dorm room and she received her email saying, congratulations, you won the Gilman Scholarship. And she ended up going to Brussels, Belgium, where she studied abroad and like took classes and then also did internships simultaneously.
Oh my goodness.
See, now I'm so nostalgic. Like, I want to study abroad again. Wow.
I know. I want to go back to school.
I want to go back to school. I miss it. Yes, that's like, I think that's my biggest advice to our listeners who are still in school. Wow, take advantage of all these incredible opportunities. Once you're kind of on your own.
It doesn't happen in adult world. Like, people don't just get to go live abroad and meet students their age who also are interested in learning more about the world around them. That doesn't happen in adult life.
I'll say it's a very unique and time-sensitive opportunity that if you're comfortable taking advantage of it, because I recognize that there are limitations to traveling abroad that even the Gilman Scholarship can't aid with, that I recognize that. But if you are in the position where you can challenge yourself, you can take that risk. I don't know of a single person who I've had the pleasure of meeting who's received the scholarship who either was fearful of going abroad, first person in their country to even, first person in their family to even get on a plane, who didn't regret doing it and didn't change them they were already great, but even further changed them for the better and gave them these invaluable experiences that inspired their careers and where they are now.
Yeah. Aww. Do you know if the Gilman Scholarship is still going to be virtual this year? Have they made any announcements, or are they hoping to send students actually abroad?
So we are definitely hoping to just kick students out of this country and have them travel again. That is our hope. That is our dream. But of course, the first priority of the Department of State is safety of our students. And so we're not going to make that push until it's fully appropriate to do so in as many countries as possible. So our idea is to slowly start dropping students like little Google Map pins in countries that we deem is safe. We deem are safe, plural, are safe. But we won't be fully promoting the in-person exchange until, we get a better establishment of, vaccination rates in other countries and in this country, and how we're going to even process vaccinations, and we just need more information at this point before we can officially announce that we're fully in person. But in the interim, for our last cycle that we had, it was for virtual opportunities exclusively.
Probably so hard to deal with the logistics and just a lot of waiting and seeing how it goes. It's unprecedented times, but like hopefully people who are listening now that things are slowly but surely starting to open up, like this is something people can seriously consider, look into more information about like Gilman Scholarship. There are so many other like federal scholarships for study abroad and language study programs. Also, if there are like people who are not currently in school, I know Jack and I have experience with like looking into programs for volunteering abroad, where they help you with funding too. So there are so many programs out there. Traveling is so expensive, but there are some really unique opportunities if you like dig for it. So yeah. Definitely.
And our application deadlines for it's a little ways away, but our next deadline would be our October 2021 deadline. But in preparation for that, it's never too early to prep. Recommend, again, going on our website, or follow us on our social media platforms, especially go on our YouTube. We have so many students who've created resources for other students to learn about how to best prepare for applying, for exchange itself, really limitless opportunities. And while study abroad has been on hiatus, the Gilman Scholarship Program has not. And we have a lot of exciting things coming out of the woodwork once we're back and fully in person again. So get excited. And also, if you have any specific questions, listeners, about how to apply or want to learn more, please email me it's my first initial last name, so S Murray, spelled Murray at iie.org, and I'd be happy to chat more.
Yay!
That's incredible.
All right. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add, Sarah? Do you want us to maybe close?
No, just thank you so much for having me. It's been fun to sort of dabble in history more than I have since, I'll be honest, since high school. But it's been a fun experience, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. And if you've enjoyed our conversation, please continue to subscribe to How We Know That podcast, wherever you're listening to it now. Then if you also can do me a favor and come over to Gilman's podcast, listen to the A Gilman Podcast, available probably exactly where we're listening to us now.
Yes. Please give Sarah's podcast some love. She works so hard as the host of A Gilman Podcast, and it's really great. You get to hear a lot of great stories from different students who have studied abroad on the Gilman Podcast. So check it out and apply for it if you qualify. It's such a great opportunity.
Yeah, just good luck to all of our listeners. And thank you again, Sarah, for coming and sharing all these opportunities that we didn't know about. So
My pleasure.
Thank you for that.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.